Well, it's not really a news story, but John, you really want to talk about this, right? Because,
Yeah.
well, let's be honest. Back in the day, you weren't a big fan of the Oculus Quest and all it
No.
stood for, but you've been spending a
Well,
lot more time. Well, let's talk about that because you were talking about how a mobile chipset was holding back VR gaming, and I
yeah.
guess that's still the
Well,
case to a
that is
certain
still the
extent.
case, but so there's a couple things. First of all, uh, things I didn't like about the Quest originally was the default strap was bad, and it felt very front heavy. And it just, the things that changed it and made it more useful for me are one, getting lens inserts, two, getting like a more comfortable head strap that's more similar to, it's the type with like the ratchet knob in the back there that you turn to tighten it. That feels a lot better on the head. And then three, the thing I finally tested this week, since I haven't had a Quest that long, and I'm also testing two headsets right now, because I do plan to do a greater VR sort of expose thing eventually here. Because
Expose.
it's interesting to look at the state of VR, and my positions have kind of moved around a bit here. But I also am testing a Pico 4 headset, which is similar to the Quest in terms of it has its own SoC, its own store, and it's a higher end one, so it's got pancake lenses like the Quest 3 does. But I've been using these both, and the big thing I discovered this week, which has been around for ages, but I never really gave it a full shot, it's wireless PC link.
Yeah.
Basically connecting your headset to the PC and playing PC VR games that way.
Mm-hmm.
So my experiences with streaming in general have generally been very poor. But in this case, I'm completely blown away by how well it works within the house. Now, you need a fast router. You need to be near the router. I have my PC unwired. I'm standing in the same room as the router, which is actually downstairs where I have more space to play VR. And I tested both the Oculus Air Link feature, which is built in, and it was pretty good. But then I picked up Virtual Desktop, which is even dramatically better.
Wow.
That is really outstanding. It just produces image quality that within both headsets, it looks basically like native output. You can't tell that you're seeing a streamed video by and large. With certain colors, you can pick up some streaming artifacts, but I think just due to the nature of how close your eyes are to the screen and the way the screens work in VR like that with the lenses, it does kind of mitigate any of those issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the latency, it feels outstanding. In fact, the thing that surprised me is like the latency and image quality seemed slightly better with Virtual Desktop wirelessly than plugging the Oculus Quest 2 into your PC with a USB cable. So it's actually a better experience now.
Okay.
So yeah, with this, you can just jump into your PC. I obviously using a powerful PC, you can downsample from very high resolutions and you get this like unbelievably pristine image quality. You can run it at up to 90 hertz, I think. And I know the Pico's 90. I can't remember if I have the Quest at that or not, but
I think it is 90.
yeah, I think
think
it's
it should
90
be.
as well. But both of them, even more on top of that with Virtual Desktop, they even have 3D models of the correct controllers. So when I'm using the Quest, you get the Quest 2 controllers. When I'm using the Pico 4, you get the Pico controllers.
That's
and those
cool.
appear within Steam VR games correctly. So I guess, developers are implementing these different controllers into it. I mean, for VR enthusiasts, this is all old news, but man, for me, it really changed my viewpoint on PC VR because removing that wire, also for PSVR 2, really, when you remove that wire from the equation, it adds so much. You just have this level of freedom. You can walk around, you can spin in place without any issues. It means you can, like, if you're playing a first person game now, you can essentially just rely on your own physical positioning to determine your direction, right? So when you turn corners, you don't have to think about all this cord or spinning around too much. Now the cord's all jumbled up. It just feels freaking great. Like,
So
it's
John,
really, really awesome.
what about your network setup there? Can you describe it to us so we can get
Sure.
a sense of what it's like?
It's not very special. I just
Yeah.
have a reasonably fast router downstairs connected directly to where the internet pipeline comes in. I have a wired connection up to my office, and that's where the PC is connected to. So the PC pipes that in there, and I'm standing down in the living room, which is where the router is located. And as long as I'm near the router, it's fantastic. I'm doing it like 100 megabits per second video.
Nice.
Stream.
That's max,
I really want to
basically.
test the Quest 3 because the Quest 3 also supports AV1. If you have like a 40 series NVIDIA card, you can do AV1 encoding. Yeah, and it's actually supposedly even higher quality, which sounds amazing.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. Though I've never done any AV1 really with. I don't know what performance impact that has. I haven't. The only AV1 I ever did was when I did that RTX 3090 at 8K in control video. And a couple other games, and that had so many issues back then because it was just like the start of AV1 on the GPU.
It should be okay. It sounds like it's actually a better experience.
It's pretty good on 40 series, that's for sure. I just want to clarify here refresh rates. The Quest 2 does 70 to 80 hertz and 90 hertz.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, and the Quest 3 is 120, but I think the virtual desktop is going to be limited to 90. I might be wrong there.
So I was reading about the Quest. Somebody was saying doing 120 on the Quest 3 causes it to heat up pretty bad. It also drains the battery. Drains the battery pretty hard. So I want to test that actually. I would like to test the Quest 3 as well in all of this because I think these wireless headsets are extremely compelling right now.
Absolutely.
But also like the internal stuff is good too. I've been messing around. I didn't actually realize that this got a standalone release, but a Medieval showed up on these things.
Right.
Which is one of my favorite PC games in the last few years. And they did a great VR version, right? Like real integration of the weapons and feel. It's not just like a playing that game in first person or in VR, but like it actually works like super well on these headsets, not connected to your PC. And the standalone experience, all the levels are there. I mean, obviously they cut the visuals back and where they needed to, but it's convincing. So, I've definitely had a change of heart. I wired VR still has a benefit. I think, especially for maybe if you're playing like cockpit games, driving games, things like that, a wired VR headset would still probably make the most sense just in terms of being ready to go. There's no battery to worry about. Right. And there are still ways to push the image quality higher on some of those headsets. But what I'm seeing right now, I think when I play PC VR and it's got me back into it, I'm just going to be going for these wireless headsets primarily.
Nice.
Fantastic.
But John, I have to talk about the elephant in the room and why are you so inconsistent with your opinions? Why do you keep changing your opinion, John? What's that about?
It's almost like you've received new information that actually makes you reassess the situation.
It's more like technology improves.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, the thing is like every other streaming service I've tested. That's the thing to consider with the wireless here is that this is within the same house. You're basically piping like a direct wired connection and beaming the wireless directly from the router to the headset. That works. Going over the internet would be a very different beast. And in fact, if I tried to walk to any other room in the house besides the room with the router in it, the connection absolutely dies and the experience becomes unusable like instantly. It's actually pretty funny how like you just walk up the steps, walk to the kitchen, and it's like, it doesn't work.
It just doesn't work. Okay.
It's very sensitive to being. You need to have very good Wi-Fi for this to work effectively, is what I'm saying.
Or be close enough. Or
be very close to the source for it to work. When you're there, it's perfect. Otherwise, not so much. And I also think, again, when you're inside a VR headset, due to the way those screens and lenses work, streaming artifacts become less noticeable. Versus, say, I remember we did the Fortnite test at Gamescom. And they were like, can you tell the difference? They had two PCs there. They had a fake one in there. And they were like, they were expecting us to have to like look at like a microscope. And I'm like, I literally sat down. I was like, this is streaming. And they just had this like disappointed, like, yeah, okay, you're right.
Yeah, don't look closer. Like I remember when I just like Lee did a little. He's like, don't look any closer. Don't look any closer. That's good.
So on a direct monitor, it's still pretty obvious. And honestly, they're faced with their challenges as well. But for VR, I think the benefits of going wireless are so high that it makes sense, especially because just the cable itself is actually a nuisance, I think, when you're doing any sort of full body motion gaming.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay, fair enough.